Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is goooo and welcome back to the rest of the patch 6.9 analysis. Now if you haven't seen the first episode or the first part of this analysis, I definitely recommend you go check that out. In that video we covered everything about mages, so major mage updates, minor mage updates, mage itemization, and hex deck items. All that stuff is in the previous video, so if you want to know what I think, or just what, if you just don't really understand it, all that would be in that other video. Now, in this video, we're going to cover jungle bosses all the way through, but this video should be a lot quicker than the first one, simply because this was the mage update, so there was a lot of mage stuff to cover. Now, before we get started, the music is the Abandoned Ship remix by Glitch City. There'll be a link down below if you want to check that out. And we'll just go ahead and jump straight to jungle bosses. So the first thing, and the major thing that affects junglers, is the elemental dragon. So regular dragon has been replaced by 4 elemental dragons. There's stone, fire, air, and water. Well, I think it's actually earth, infernal, cloud, and ocean dragon are their official names, and they each do different things. Now I'm not going to read any of this crap because I know exactly what they do. Basically, they each have a different buff, and these elemental dragons can only spawn for the first 35 minutes of the game, as it says here. And the way that works is if a dragon is going to spawn before 35 minutes, it will be an elemental dragon. Now, they don't despawn at 35 minutes, and even if the dragon's spawning at, 34 minutes and 59 seconds, it would be an elemental dragon. And then after that, they start spawning as elder dragons, but we're not going to get to that quite yet. So, what do the elemental dragons do? Well, the stone dragon gives you a turret pushing buff. It just helps you, it makes you do more damage to turrets. Infernal dragon increases your ability power and attack damage, so more damage overall. The cloud dragon makes you move faster out of combat. And finally, the ocean dragon gives you increased regeneration on your health and mana. Now, these, all of them are good. Don't get me wrong. Every single one of these buffs will certainly help you. So if you can get a dragon, you usually should. But it's still the same rules as before the mid-season update. You never want to give up turrets for dragons unless you absolutely have to. Dragons are still a lower priority than turrets, but they're all good. Don't think that any of these buffs are just bad. However, they definitely aren't all equal. There's definitely a pecking order. And in my opinion, that is actually Earth Dragon, Infernal Dragon, Water Dragon, and then Cloud Dragon, or Ocean Dragon, then Cloud Dragon. However, some people might argue that Infernal comes before Stone, and I could totally understand that. So basically, what you need to know is that Stone and Infernal are very important dragons, and Water is kind of middle of the pack. It's always going to help you, but it's not super powerful. And then Cloud is definitely last place, and the reason for that is because Cloud Dragon is out of combat movement speed. So yeah, it helps you get around the map more, and then that can help you pressure objectives quicker and all of that stuff. However, it won't help you in team fights because it's out of combat movement. And every single one of these other things, well, not Stone Dragon, but that's pushing turrets is so important that it's okay that it doesn't. Infernal and Water both help you in team fights, so that's why they're just better than the Cloud Dragon. But like I said, that doesn't mean that Cloud Dragon's bad. It just happens to be worse than these other ones. Now, some more information about elemental dragons, which was actually answered. Well, I didn't find out until I started playing on live. They didn't mention this in the teaser, if you saw that video that I released a couple weeks ago. But basically, the dragon spawns are completely random. That was verified, I guess, by playing live. If you play live, you'll know that the dragon spawns are absolutely random. And some games, a certain type of dragon won't even spawn. That's just how it works. You'll have some this game, and the next game you won't. However, there are some rules about the dragon spawning. So you can only get a maximum of 3 buffs. Like, they do stack. So if you killed 3 infernal dragons, you would go from 18%, 16% to 32%, I think. If I click this, it's going to... Okay, 8, 16 to 24. Sorry, I did bad math there. But like I said, they all stack up like this. So 10, 20, 30% bonus damage to epic monsters and turrets. Oh yeah, I forgot this one does epic monsters, so it's very good. Mountain Drake, as it's called, actually helps you take dragons in the future. So I still think Mountain Drake's the best. Infernal's a close second. But anyways, the important thing is that you can get 3 of each one. So that means if a team already has 3 of that buff, another one of those dragons won't spawn because it would just be useless. I'm pretty sure. Now it doesn't say. Yeah, here it says only 3 elements will appear per match. So that means. Oh no, only 3 elements means that. I guess that means only 3 types of dragons will appear every match. Okay, but either way, you won't ever get 4 of the same dragon because they only stack 3 times, and that's pretty much the extent of the rules. Other than only 3 elements will appear, that apparently means that only 3 types of dragons can appear every game, so you can't get 1 of every single buff. But that's it for elemental dragons. They are important, like I said. They're still not as important as turrets because turrets lead to the Nexus, and the Nexus is actually how you win League of Legends games. You don't necessarily win the game by getting dragons or getting Baron or any of that stuff. You actually have to kill the Nexus. So they're good. They're not the highest priority. And some interesting thing, I think every single dragon has a little bit different properties. So Mountain Drake might be a little bit tankier than the other ones. Infernal might do more damage on hit. I think Cloud Drake has increased attack speed over the other ones, and then Ocean Drake, this is the only one I know for a fact. Ocean Drake slows you on its auto attacks, which is actually really obnoxious if you're trying to do the Ocean Drake and then all of a sudden you think that you can't do it, so you start running out of the pit, and then it's slowing you by its own on every auto attack. But I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Mountain's tanky, Infernal does the most damage, Cloud attacks the quickest, and Ocean slows you on autos. So that's pretty cool. Overall, the dragons are very good. I really like that they updated dragons and they added some more flair to the game, I guess. However, I still am disappointed that it's completely random as to what dragons will spawn, what order they will spawn, everything like that. It makes it very, very difficult to prepare for it and to pick accordingly because it is a big deal. The different kinds of dragons affects everyone on the map. So for the most part, what that means is that you really should be playing versatile junglers and actually early game junglers. I guess I don't know where I was going to start mentioning this, but basically the meta that I've seen so far is that you have to have junglers that are ready to fight early and ready to fight a ton early. Like if you play a champion that just wants to farm up and scale into super late game, like for example, our favorite on the channel, Echo, it just doesn't work. I actually have not had any success jungling with Echo this patch. However, I haven't tried out all the builds. I've only played them like twice, so it's kind of misleading for me to say I haven't had any success with them. But from what I've been able to tell, if your champion cannot fight early, then they're extremely weak in the jungle on this patch. So I guess that's pretty much it for the elemental dragons. Overall, they're important. They're still not more important than turrets. They're cool. The completely random chance is very frustrating, but other than that, overall, I think it's a beneficial change, and I do like it. Now, Elder Dragon. As we said earlier, these only spawn for the first 35 minutes of the game. After 35 minutes, and like we said, these dragons don't go away. So if one of these dragons is up and it hasn't been cleared and the clock suddenly turns to 35 minutes, that dragon will still be there. It's not like it suddenly despawns and then Elder Dragon spawns. That's not how it works. However, if a dragon is spawning after 35 minutes, it will be an Elder Dragon. And that does include, say you kill one of these dragons at like 32 minutes, then the next one would be an Elder Dragon, because 6 minutes later, that would be 38 minutes. Boom, it has to be an Elder Dragon. So anyways, I know that I probably rambled too long about how they spawn, but if you had any questions, I certainly answered them. Now, Elder Dragon. Elder Dragon is... Okay, on paper, Elder Dragon is a really big deal. Elder Dragon, depending on how you played the early game, because what Elder Dragon does is it gives you a buff, and this buff increases in power based on how many elemental dragons your team has taken. So if your team just has complete dragon control the whole game and then an Elder Dragon spawns, once you get it, you probably will be able to win the game. It will be a super huge buff, and that'll be enough to push and end the game. However, the thing is, even though Elder Dragon is this is a really big deal. It spawns at 35 minutes in the game, and as you guys know, as has been the trend for most of Season 6, games are usually decided way before 35 minutes. So it's cool that it can be a win condition, but usually the team that would be able to get a powerful Elder Dragon is already winning the game at that point. So it's just kind of, you know, icing on the cake. It's not the whole cake itself, if you understand what I'm saying. Now, the thing about the Elder Dragon that I do like is actually how it works. It increases in power based on how many of the elemental dragons you got. So what that means is, if a game was going to take a really long time for some reason, if it was just an oddball game that was going to take forever, if you have complete dragon control and you get an Elder Dragon, like I said, you'll probably win the game from that. And the good part about this is that it's not, the enemy can't steal this and completely change the game, kind of like how Baron works. So if you had every single elemental dragon and then you started going for the Elder Dragon and the enemy happens to steal it, maybe your jungle misses a smite, or if you guys are jungling, maybe you miss a smite, you know, it happens to everyone. Don't worry about it. But even if the enemy team manages to steal it, if they didn't get any elemental dragons, the Elder Dragon buff is not that big of a deal. It is still a buff, and it will still kind of help them, but it's not a huge deal, right? Well, okay. Yeah, look, so for the next 120 seconds, basic attacks and spells burn the target for 45, and for a 45 flat, and then it's another 45 per each elemental drake buff that you've taken. So you'll pretty much get 45 more damage based on every single dragon you've taken. So that's how it increases that. And then on the flip side, Elder Dragon buff itself increases the strength of elemental dragon buffs by 50%. So I really like that mechanic of it. I really like how it works very well with the earlier dragons, how getting it stolen won't completely ruin your game, you know, stuff like that. But all in all, the only downside to Elder Dragon, well, the two downsides. One, it spawns at 35 minutes, and that is extremely late for Season 6 League of Legends games. I could understand if they put it up to 30 minutes. That would certainly make it more of a factor in games, but I mean, realistically, the way it works, I understand why it's at 35 minutes, because they want you to get several elementals before you get an Elder. So if they were going to move the Elder Dragon up, maybe they'd have to lower the dragon respawn time, and then that would mess up so many things that they've worked to balance forever. So I don't think they're going to do that. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be that big of a deal, unless if maybe they can move it up to 30 minutes. I saw a pro tweet about that, and maybe that would fix it. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's the one downside, that it spawns super late. And then the other downside is it kind of hinges on the randomness of the elemental drakes. So the elemental drakes are completely random. Only 3 different elements will appear each game. Well, you know, maybe an air dragon, a water dragon, and then 1 fire dragon that nobody's able to even get spawn in a game, or some crap like that. And then you get the Elder Dragon, but it's not even that big a deal because you got bad luck with the buffs. You know, I don't really like that, but it is what it is. Overall, once again, even though I have some downsides to these, or things that I don't like about them, they are still good, and I kind of like what they did with the game. Always adding new stuff, that's always more fun to play on, but I just don't like RNG. I don't think RNG really has a good, should be a thing in League of Legends. I don't really like that, but it is what it is. Now, Rift Herald. They completely changed Rift Herald. Basically, I'm not going to read all this crap. I'm probably not even going to read all this crap. What Rift Herald does now, instead of it respawning after you kill it, you only get to kill Rift Herald once. And Rift Herald's buff is now called the Void Super Buff. And what it does is, on a champion, it makes them take... Alright, let's look at it. Glimpse of the Void. Okay, that's what their real buff is called. But anyways, when no allied champions are near you, you gain 5% damage reduction against champions, and then you build up charges of corruption. And at 100 charges, your next basic attack discharges all stacks of corruption, which deals an increasing amount based on your level, and it is halved for ranged champions. So, the important parts are that Rift Herald never respawns, and its buff lasts for 20 minutes. So 20 whole minutes of having a Rift Herald buff. And the buff, it is pretty good. Is it better on laners or junglers? basically my opinion is that it's actually best on most mid laners because well, not most mid laners. Let me say this. I think the most powerful champion in the game right now to have a Herald buff would be Fizz. I played Fizz mid, not Fizz in the jungle, Fizz mid, and I had a Rift Herald buff. And then with it, I was able to roam around the map, and every time I came to fight a champion, I had full stacks of corruption. I would use my Q, it would apply it because his Q applies on hit effects, and you could pretty much one-shot people with Fizz, with Glimpse of the Void. So I think it's best on assassins that on hit. So that's why I'm gonna say that it's probably best on mid laners, secondary junglers, and then third top, because right now the meta is more tank tops and damage junglers. However, I think that's actually going to change, which we'll talk a little bit about when we get to the items. But basically, the reason that I have it mid, jungle, top as the order is because mid does the most damage, jungle does the second, and top does the third. So basically, if your champion does damage, it's better for them to take Glimpse of the Void. However, most top laners are going to be really stubborn about it because they say, oh, it's 5% damage reduction when no allied champions are around. But, I mean, on a tank, who cares if they do, you know, like, I don't know. It's not a tank buff. Even though it makes them a little bit tankier when no allies are around, that's better on assassins. I mean, you should read that and you should understand that works better with assassins. So, overall, it's pretty cool though. I like Rift Herald, and when it's put on the right champion, the right kind of champion, it can really impact a game. However, some champions can't make full usage of it, and if that is the case, you really don't need to be worrying about Rift Herald. So basically, if you have a strong assassin that's able to roam and use it, I would say Rift Herald's a pretty high priority. Or if you're playing a jungle assassin that can roam around and use it, still high priority. However, if not, if your team's like all based around team fighting and being grouped, Rift Herald's really not that big a deal, and going for it might cost you a turret or something, and that's totally not worth it. So that's my opinions on Rift Herald. Now, Baron Nashor, the increased Baron's buff duration. I didn't even know that, but cool. I guess it makes Baron more useful for ending games, so I guess that's pretty good. Red and blue buffs. Now here's a change that I honestly do not like. This is the first change that I just dislike, period, on the well, on everything. For the most part, all these other things, even though sometimes they have some downsides, I do like them. I do like most of the changes, but red and blue buff changes, can't say I like them. Basically, red and blue buffs last 120 seconds at the first time a buff camp is cleared, and then 90 seconds, so they nerfed late game buffs, and they make it a little less worth it to go get your buff before, while sieging. You know, it makes it to where you have to get the buff at a very precise time, and that's just not really reasonable to do. But that's one thing, and that's not the problem. And this isn't the problem either. The numbers that they changed on the buffs, none of this is the problem. They made them work a little bit differently. The slow scales more. It now applies a free tick of damage. Okay, so they're a little bit more powerful. The buffs are a little bit more powerful, is what all this says. But the downside is this. Really, jungle timers, I kind of tied this up with red and blue buff because it really only affects red and blue buffs. Now, camps, which if you guys have played, you already know what this is, but camps now, when they're respawning in a minute, they get a little hourglass on the minimap, which everyone can see. So if the enemy team does not invade you, does not set up vision, doesn't do anything to hurt you, they will know when your buff is spawning for free, because a minute before it spawns, everyone on the game, or everyone on the map, gets to see that it's spawning. And I mean, you guys can probably tell by the bias in my voice, that's what I don't like. I don't like that it takes no skill whatsoever to start counter jungling people. You don't have to set up vision beforehand. You don't have to make sure your lanes are okay, because you'll just know, and then you can send the whole goon squad there, and in solo queue, sometimes your team's not going to help you, and then boom, you have an issue. So I do not like this. This is the main problem. And then also, when it's 20 seconds in, the hourglass changes from gray to yellow, and it starts getting brighter to like grab your attention, but it's dumb. I just do not like how it rewards people for not doing anything, because basically what this does, I mean, this hasn't happened to me, this is all hypothetical speaking, But you could take laners that get a really big level 6 power spike or something like that. Like, they're kind of useless early, and these kind of champions would not be able to invade early. They would not be able to because their champion's too weak. However, they get this massive level 6 power spike, right? And then they see that your buff is spawning. They've hit level 6 because they'll probably be level 6. The solo laners will by the time your second buff is spawning. So then they come into your jungle with their massive power spikes because they get free knowledge from this, and then you're screwed. You're just screwed, and it's annoying. But I know why Riot did it. Their reasoning for it is they feel like the early game is too boring in League, and they want you to fight more often. So they made it to where your jungle camps can always be contested, so that there'll be more fights. But I don't know. It just makes it to where you have to play champions that are better at team fighting, and you can't. It makes it a little bit more difficult to actually outmaneuver your opponents. Now League is slowly shifting towards just simply out team fighting them, which, I mean, team fights have always been a huge part of League, don't get me wrong, but it's just more and more becoming to where you just need to play team fight champions, and you need to be able to work with your team in fights more than you solo shot calling, you know, outmaneuvering, out pressuring objectives, stuff like that. It just changes how the game works, and overall I don't like it, but it's not awful. You know, it's not like the end of the world, but it's overall I dislike it. Turrets. They made turrets more durable. The outer and inner turrets are a little more threatening, so it's a little bit harder to turret dive. And mages and assassins are better able to damage turrets. So even though they made the turrets more durable, they made it to where carries, pretty much is what this means. Well, not AD carries, but mid lane carries are able to take turrets a little bit quicker. So it's just tweaks, I would call it. I can't really say that this goes one way or the other. I haven't really noticed the turret changes super impacting my games. They are what they are. You know, let's see. The turret damage increases by 40% for the first 3 shots. So the damage gets up high. I have actually noticed that. It's a little bit harder to tank turrets. And then the damage, it will stay increased when it's hitting champions while you're turret diving, I guess. Even if you switch focus, it stays hot. So I have noticed that. The mage turret's a little bit tankier. I didn't notice that. Turrets are still pretty easy to take. And it made AP champions easier for pushing. I guess I kind of noticed that. Not really. But overall, like I said, these are all just kind of tweaks. None of these are major game changing. All turrets are completely different now. The meta is still take as many turrets as you can when you can, and just turret dive carefully. It's pretty much what this means now. Turret rewards. I did actually notice this. They made it to where if you are solo in your turret, you'll get 300 gold instead of you'll get 300 gold instead of 220, and global gold goes down to 100 per teammate. So overall, this is actually increased gold as long as somebody's near it. I mean, it's 400 gold instead of 345 gold. So basically all this means is that when you're for the team, it's a little bit less, but per the one person, if you are near a turret and it's about to die, don't let minions kill it yourself. Go to the turret. That's pretty much my analysis on this. Inner turrets no longer grant 50 experience, and inhibitor turrets now give global gold or local gold, a little bit more local gold. Okay, so once again, these are mostly tweaks, not really that big a deal to us, but the big one is this. Just make sure if you're near a turret that's dying, don't let the minions kill it without a champion there. Make sure somebody is there to get the gold, because it's quite a lot of gold. I mean, it's a whole kill. 300 gold is a whole regular kill, so make sure you're near turrets when they're dying. Game pacing. They increased jungler experience. Honestly, I haven't noticed this at all, but it makes junglers level up a little bit quicker. Like I said, I haven't really felt this while playing, but it is in the game. And what this does is that it makes junglers a little bit more ready to fight, because like we mentioned all throughout this video, Riot just wants you to fight all the time. So if you're able to get out of the jungle quicker with more life, that's good. This actually helps champions that have a level 6 power spike in the jungle. So earlier I played Warwick with the new Bloodrazer, And oh yeah, we'll talk about, well, I guess we'll get to the Bloodrazer soon, so we'll talk about it then. But the fact that you can get more experience in the jungle helps junglers that need to hit level 6 before they do something. It does help them. I mean, there's still kind of a liability because you still have all those levels before level 6, but it threw them a bone. So I do kind of like that. Death timers, they're reduced between 20 to 35 minutes. The reason they did this, I don't care what they said here. The reason they did this is because they want games to extend long enough to where Elder Dragon actually affects the game. Like, they didn't mention that here, but basically the reason that games were ending so early, very, very early, is because death timers were so long in the mid game. So now they're lowering them so games will extend a little bit longer so that you might actually get to an Elder Dragon because they want it to do something. So that's their reasoning for this. It doesn't say it, but you guys can trust me on that. Home guard, they tweaked home guard. Haste duration's down. Haste amount is down. So once again, this is a game delayer. I don't care what this says. I haven't even read it, but I mean, this, if we look at the numbers, they're trying to delay the game a little bit, and the reason for that is they want these. I guess they just want I mean, really, the dragons is the only thing I can think of. They want that to actually be a factor. Azir, they kind of nerfed his ult. Not really that big a deal to that many people. Basically, you can't quite pin people against walls that easily with Azir. Alawi, they reworked her, not reworked, they tweaked her Vessel debuff. I haven't played with any Alawis in a long time. I actually saw one on a stream earlier, but I don't think Alawi is fantastic. I think she's just fine, I guess. she's kind of weak. Alawi's main weakness is that she's very easy to gank. So if you guys are jungling versus Alawi, make sure you gank her all the time before she hits level 6. And the most important thing, which I don't know why everyone hasn't gotten this already, but if Alawi ults, you get the hell away from her. Period. If you have to flash out of her ult, then flash out. You don't mess with Alawi in her ultimate, and then she's overall a really weak champion. I think most Alawis get their kills because people just don't move. Like, even in a team fight. And I know I'm kind of going on a rant here, but if your team is team fighting and Alawi ults, just leave them. If they won't leave, that's their fault. You cannot possibly beat Alawi in her ultimate. But, alright, that's it about Alawi. Kindred, Q cooldown up while in Wolf's Frenzy, but W lasts longer and deals bonus damage to monsters. So overall, this is, it's a buff. I mean, technically it's a tweak, I guess is what we'll call it, because you're weaker early, but you're a lot better late game. And since they buffed her W at all ranks too, even though you're a little bit weaker early, the W kind of makes up for it. So overall, it's not that big of a nerf at all to Kindred. And Kindred, she's still fine, but actually we'll have to talk about the items to really sum up about Kindred. Mordekaiser. Elder Dragon's a little bit stronger than regular Dragon Ghost. Yeah, because it's Elder Dragon. Nidalee's Q, takedown, execute skills with ult rank. That's pretty good. Makes Nidalee a little less obnoxious early. I haven't even read most of this stuff. Okay, it's only a few more. So sorry if I'm unprepared because I haven't even read this crap. But it's E. They pretty much fixed some bugs with Rengar. It looks they made his E a little bit better to use. But if you guys saw my Rengar live the other day, or I mean I guess it was about a month ago, I had no problems playing Rengar. So I know everyone was saying Rengar's E sucks now, but he seemed perfectly fine to me. And now they've made it a little bit better. So if you guys want my opinion on can you play Rengar, yeah, sure, man, go for it. I don't think he's that bad at all. Soraka, Q slow and movement speed. Okay, so they nerfed Soraka. I don't think they should have nerfed Soraka. They're actually going to have to buff Soraka soon because they reworked how Grievous Wounds work. Now Grievous Wounds apply on all healing. The reason that Soraka was so good, if you guys didn't know, Grievous Wounds only applied on self-healing. And if anyone ever told you that Ignite reduces Soraka's healing to another target, they were wrong. They were absolutely wrong. Now they'd be correct, but before this patch, before 6.9, that's why Soraka was so good. That's why before Season 6, I mean, she was fine, but she wasn't insanely or absurdly insane. Or I don't even know, was it before Season 6? Yeah. Like in Season 5, Soraka was good, but she wasn't complete win game. And then when the preseason came around and they reworked how Grievous Wounds worked, that's when Soraka had to get 100% ban rate on like several different patches because of this. And now they nerfed her again. So overall, I think Soraka's in a pretty weak state right now. And make sure if you're going versus Soraka, now you do want to take Ignite because it will work on her heals. Taric, okay, so they tweaked his W and his E to make them a little bit weaker. Taric definitely deserved it. He was super OP. He's still very, very strong. He's probably the best support in the game right now, depending on the enemy team comp. He obviously is an armor support, so if you're versus a bunch of AP, he's not that great. But one thing I wanted to mention on Taric is that you guys should try playing him in 1-for-all, because it's really crazy. So my opinion on Taric is play him in 1-for-all. It's very nice. Teemo, mana cost down. His ult mana cost down, and the ammo recharge is down. So Teemo buffs, that's fine, I guess. I don't think Teemo's that great right now. And Zac revives. Okay, this is actually really good. This is a really cool buff. They made him revive faster at higher levels, so that means late game your ult is, I mean, not your ult, your passive is a little less useless, because as you guys probably know, if you died late game on Zac in a fight, you were definitely completely dead. I mean, your passive didn't do crap, but now that he revives faster, you have a higher chance of being respawned, so that's pretty good. Splash updates. I normally wouldn't even talk about this, but let's talk about traditional Trundle. Or we won't even talk about it, but it's pretty, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but I do like the change. It's a lot cooler. Cooler is a word. It's not the word I was trying to think of. But anyways, that's the only important one. Trundle's traditional splash. Okay, so items. They removed boot enchantments. Boot enchantments no longer exist, which the main thing that we need to note about boot enchantments being removed is that Alacrity no longer exists. And what that means is that boots of swiftness are now the best boots in the game again. Because before, you could just buy a different kind of boots and then get the Alacrity, and it was kind of like you had boots of swiftness. But now that Alacrity's gone, you need to get boots of swiftness whenever possible. Now if you're versus 5 AD, obviously don't. And if you're versus a ton of CC, obviously don't. But for the most part, if you can get boots of swiftness, do it now because of this. Devourer gone. Sleep tight, pupper. There's no more Ghost Doggo. Devourer's gone. I never really liked how do I put this? As soon as they revealed Devourer and Sated Devourer, I thought, wow, this is going to be super hard for them to balance, and it looks incredibly OP. And what do you know? They've been trying to balance it since they released it, and now they finally removed it. So I am proud of Riot for doing that, and I am proud of Riot for releasing Bloodrazer. Now, more about Devourer. I guess I don't have anything else to say about it. I never really liked playing Devourer kind of junglers. They're not really my thing. Straight farm carry junglers, I don't really like that. You guys know I'm more of a tanky, work with your team jungler than I am AFK farm on Master Yi for 40 minutes and then try to 1v5 carry. I don't like doing that. But anyways, Bloodrazer. Now we're going to talk about Bloodrazer, and this actually affects Kindred. I was talking about Kindred earlier. Basically, I'm going to break you guys down the difference between Devourer and Bloodrazer and why everyone in the game thinks that Bloodrazer sucks. If you looked at any pros, they all say, oh, Bloodrazer is so bad. The reason that people think Bloodrazer is bad is because they've been getting it on champions that were excellent with Devourer. So they would get it on champions that had on-hit passives that they wanted to refresh with the Sated Devourer. So Master Yi's one, Zhenzao's one. Kindred's not really one, but she still kind of falls into the same category. Basically, there's all these champions that worked really well with Sated Devourer, right? And then now, they don't work well with it, and that's fine. They don't work well with Bloodrazer at all. And if you guys don't know what Bloodrazer does, sorry, I should have already said this, but basically, it's kind of like a warrior version, but with attack speed. So it gives you 40% attack speed, and you deal 3% of the target's maximum health on hit. That's it. You don't get no... Sorry, you don't get no... That's terrible English. You get no kind of super OP passive after you farm for a while. There's none of that crap. It's just a simple attack speed jungle item. Now, A lot of people have been saying this is a lot worse than Devour, and it kind of is, but it really isn't. The thing is, it just caters to different kinds of champions. So Devour, like I said, it caters to, you know, Master Yi, Xin Zhao, even Kindred, even though Kindred doesn't really have an on-hit passive. Kale, basically champions with a powerful on-hit passive. That's what Devour catered to, right? But Bloodrazer is just an attack speed item, and what it does now is it makes certain different champions that just want attack speed. They don't care about the super on-hit passive thing. They just want more attack speed. It makes them a lot better than the old Devourer was, because as soon as you buy Bloodrazer, it's at max strength. This was actually a big problem for Warwick. Coming back to Warwick, I think he's actually pretty good right now. I don't think he's the best jungler in the game or anything, but I think if you want to play Warwick, he's fine right now because of, one, the increased jungle experience, and then two, because of Bloodrazer, it very much benefits him, because now, well, before on Warwick, you definitely wanted to go Devourer because you needed the attack speed, but Warwick is not a fast jungler. He's a safe jungler. He can do it, but he's not very quick about it, and that put him in this awful position where he wasn't getting the most out of his item because he would have to AFK farm forever, and then, you know, on Warwick, that's like the last thing you want to be doing. But Bloodrazer now just gives him the stats as soon as you buy it. Now, of course, it's not quite as overpowered as Sated Devourer was, but if you compare on purchase Bloodrazer to Devour, Bloodrazer is a lot better, and that's why I really like it. I really like what they did with it. It caters to those champions that simply want an attack speed passive. You know, you don't have to play the champions that all of a sudden hit this massive power spike when they start hitting you 4 times in a second. You know, that's stupid. This item just gives you increased attack speed and a little bit of on-hit damage as soon as you buy it. So overall, I think Bloodrazer is a great item. I know that everyone's been complaining about how bad it is. One thing, I don't know why this is the red smite and this is the blue smite. I wonder why they did that. I just noticed that. But anyways, you asked me my opinion on Bloodrazer. I think it's very great, but of course it's not going to cater exactly the same to the old champions that would get Devour, but it opens up the door for a lot more champions that simply want an attack speed item and then they want to start team fighting. They don't want to AFK farm. This is not an AFK farm item, and I really like that. Maybe they buff it a little bit, but honestly, its stats are fantastic. It's 3% of the target's maximum health. Now, the difference between maximum health and current health, which is what most things do in the game now, not a lot of things deal maximum health. The only thing I can think of is Vayne's W. But basically, we're going to compare Bloodrazer to Blade of the Ruined King. Blade of the Ruined King and Bloodrazer, if they had the same percentage, I don't think they do, but if they did, they would both deal the same amount of damage on your very first auto on a target if the target's full life. After that, Blade of the Ruined King would start dealing less damage every single auto, but Bloodrazer wouldn't because it is maximum life. It's not current life. So I really like that. However, the maximum damage to monsters really sucks. I mean, 75? That's pathetic. I think they could buff that. Maybe that's what this item needs, but 3% to champions is great, and Bloodrazer is a good item. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You just have to take it on the right champions. Don't take it on, you know, like Master Yi. I would think he wants to go Warrior now, not Bloodrazer. Go Warrior and then maybe get a crit attack speed item, and that makes more sense to me than a Sated Devourer. All of a sudden he's this unstoppable monster piece of shit. So I like it. I like Bloodrazer. Sorry, I ranted on that for like 10 minutes, but this was definitely the most important thing for junglers other than the dragon, so it was good that we talked about it. Rageblade. Basically, they removed the Devour thing and they added it onto the end of Rageblade. Now, I did just rant about how I don't like, or I didn't like the Sated Devour thing forever, but Rageblade is really impractical on most champions, so it's not nearly as broken as Sated Devour was. Basically, champions that want to get this, and what it is a late game item. It's just a late game item that you farm up forever for, and then you get it. So like Vayne gets this. I would imagine maybe Master Yi's want to get this. Jax, you could still get this, you know. But my main thing that I really like is that this is not linked to the jungle attack speed item, because that just ruined it for so many junglers that just wanted attack speed. Now it's on this item. I think this item's perfectly balanced. I mean, it's 3,600 gold. It's more than old Black Cleaver was, and if you guys have been watching my videos, you'll know I complained about how expensive Black Cleaver was forever. So I don't think this is OP at all. I think it's definitely strong on certain champions. Like, for the most part, it's Vayne, because the during Gunsoo's Rage, it's not hindered for ranged champions like Devourer was. Gunsoo's Rage is full effect on ranged champions, so Vayne gets incredible usage out of it. Kayle probably would too. Kayle. I'm trying to think of ranged champions that really excel with this. Those are the only two I can think of right now. I don't want to waste a lot of time just thinking about it, but it's balanced. I mean, it is super strong on those champions. Maybe they'll nerf it a little bit, but it's not nearly as stupid as Sated Devourer was. Now, Black Cleaver. Speak of the devil. Black Cleaver, I do like the changes a lot. They reduced the cost by 400 gold, and they took away 5 attack damage. Now, I actually mentioned this, I guess, in the previous patch analysis for 6.1. I mentioned that when they make items more expensive and they give them more damage, that strengthens the items. In almost all cases, that is true, but not when they go over the top. So, like, for Black Cleaver, say if they reverse this, you know, I'm definitely contradicting what I just said in the last video, but, I mean, if they reverse this change, 5 attack damage is not worth 400 gold, right? So, I know that that's what I just said, but when it's over the top gold, like maybe 5 attack damage for 100 gold, that would make the item a little bit better, but 5 for 400, that's too much. So overall, Black Cleaver, I really am happy about this. It's kind of like the Bloodrazer change. This opens up for a lot of junglers that needed to get Black Cleaver, but it was just so ridiculously expensive, it was impractical to get. So Lee Sin for one, he's very good right now. Vi also, you want to be getting Black Cleaver on those two champions, and they're a lot better now than they were before. Now, Spectre's Cowl, I guess they kind of changed it to mix with all their mage update items. It costs more, it gives you more health, and it gives you less magic resist. This is just to help mages a little bit. I mean, yeah, it gives you more health and less magic resist. That what this does is it makes your health worth less, which makes you weaker overall. So it is a nerf. I mean, it gives you more health, but if you're getting less magic resist, then like I said, your HP is just worth less per point of HP, so it makes you a little bit weaker. And then Banshee's Veil, I really like the Banshee's Veil changes actually, because they made it cost 450 less gold, which is a ton, and they changed the build path a little bit, which is perfectly fine with me, and the health went down. But you know, you're buying Banshees for the Banshees passive. It's kind of like Zonia's. You're not buying it just to get great defensive stats, you're buying it to block spells, and that's what it focuses on now. I like that a lot. Spirit Visage, combined cost of magic resist down, regen, and healing up. So they lowered the magic resist. This once again is kind of throwing a bone to mages, because they want mages to be, I guess, back in meta, because mages have actually kind of sucked before this patch, so I'm perfectly fine with them buffing all the mages like this. So a little less magic resist, but the health regen's up and the passive healing increases up, so it's a lot more impactful on regen tanks, so like Mundo, Maokai, Zac, all of them. It's a better item on them, but overall it is a weaker item, because once again, it's the same change that Spectre's Cowl does. It makes your champion's health worth less, and that means it's weaker. That's the best way I can describe it. Guardian Angel, they lowered the cost and they lowered the magic resist, so this is actually I would say it's a buff too, the same reason that Banshee's Veil is a buff, because you're buying Guardian Angel to respawn. You're not buying Guardian Angel to get fantastic resistances, although they are always nice. It's better. Guardian Angel's better. Okay, QSS and Mercurial, this is a really big deal, but it's not going to take long to describe. They made it to where QSS and Mercurial only remove hard CC. So once again, it makes Zed one of the best champions in the game. I kind of mentioned that in one of my other videos. And any of those other champions that had debuffs, that could be QSS. So this is actually a big buff to Swain too. I haven't seen any Swains yet, but for the most part, this is a big buff to those kind of champions, and it's a nerf to AD carries, which once again is kind of throwing it more towards the mage side of things, which is what I guess Riot's leaning towards now. Hexdrinker, Maw, and Sterix, they made it to where Sterix passive is combined with Hexdrinker and Maw, so they have you can't stack them. When I say it's combined, they're all lifeline passive, so they don't stack. So I think that's fine. It just makes you have to build a little more diverse. Mostly this is a nerf to the champions that would get Maw and Sterix and then call it a day and they'd be super unkillable. It's a nerf to that, which I kind of like, because it just makes you have to build a little bit differently, build a little bit smarter. Now, here are some important changes that I actually want to talk about too. Sunfire Cape and Cinder Hulk. They nerfed Sunfire Cape and they buffed Cinder Hulk. So this is what I kind of mentioned earlier. I think that this alone is going to slowly shift the meta to where it's tank junglers and damage top laners. But I don't expect that to happen for a couple of patches because honestly people just suck at changing the meta. They take forever to do it. But if you just look at the numbers, right now tank junglers are better and damage top laners are better. Simply because of this. I mean, the buff to Cinder Hulk is a massive buff. This actually, they are even at level 6. Cinder Hulk is just as strong as it was at level 6 now, and every level past that, it's a better item. So, big buff to Cinder Hulk, big buff to tank junglers, big nerf to tank top laners. Vision Ward, they made it to where it's 4 life, but it regenerates, so that's pretty neat. Farsight alteration, I do actually like this nerf. They made it to where its cooldown is up. So my opinion on the ward trinkets right now are, if you are tanky and melee and you can afford to face check bushes, you should always get yellow trinket. If not, you should always get blue trinket. Use blue trinket to face check for you so that you can be safe. That's it. Righteous Glory, they buffed Righteous Glory. They made it to where it only speeds up the one target, but they buffed up everything about it. So overall, it's a much stronger item, and really it still gets the same job done. So you would get this on like Maokai or well, Maokai's the only one I'm going to say right now because I can't think of any other ones, but it'll speed you up a ton. It won't speed up your allies, but it'll let you get that deep line initiation better off, and the item's just better overall. They buffed pretty much everything about it, so I do like that. Warmogs, they also super buffed Warmogs. They made the health go down 50, but it still gives you good health regen, and then it also has its Warmog's Heart passive. Those are two different things, but that's insane, health regen. And then it gives you 10% CDR. So once again, it's looking pretty good for tank junglers, honestly. I hope it's not tank top and tank jungle because that's kind of boring, but I would like tank jungle meta because I do like playing tank junglers. They changed support items because pretty much every support either gets Relic Shield or Spell Thieves. There's almost no Talisman, so they nerfed Relic Shield and Spell Thieves to where people will get Talisman. And then Arcane Sweeper, this doesn't even really exist on the map we're playing on. They renamed it. Okay. Grievous Wounds, once again we already talked about this, but it's reverted to affect all healing, not just self-healing, so this is a big nerf to Soraka mainly. It's also a nerf to any other kind of healing support. And another thing, this actually makes it to where Athene's Unholy Grail isn't quite as stupid as you might think it is because Grievous Wounds affects its heal as well. And then Skin Clarity, bug fixes, all that crap. Don't really need to talk about any of that. What we can talk about is this skin because the singed version, the singed skin is so cool. And we are actually going to finish off with this screen. These two are okay, but this one is one of the best skins in the game in my opinion. So that's going to be it for patch 6.9. I'm sorry that this video also took a little over 45 minutes. It's a lot of stuff to talk about. It was a very big update. I mean, it's almost a new season update. It's so big. So I hope I could answer any of you guys' questions. If you're just watching this one, you may want to go back and watch the first one. And if you have any more questions, always feel free to comment those. I'd be happy to answer those. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.